All right, all right, all right. Okay, let me share my screen and we can get into it. I know you guys are all waiting for those wonderful details.
Daima, can you make a second co-host? Or I guess Bree can help mute people who are not on mute.
Yes, Bree is already co-host.
Okay, cool.
Thank you for admitting people and monitoring the mute settings. All right. Well, you are all here to find out about the upcoming uh, full-time cohort for Techtonica. And just as a reminder, our mission is to help women and non-binary adults overcome barriers into the tech industry. Just some housekeeping. Our code of conduct preserves that Techtonica is dedicated to providing a safe, inclusive, welcoming, and harassment-free space and experience for all members and guests, regardless of gender identity and expression, social orientation, disability, physical appearance, socioeconomic status, body size, ethnicity, nationality, level of experience, age, or religion, or lack thereof. Our code of conduct exists because of that dedication. We do not tolerate harassment in any form, and we prioritize marginalized people's safety over privileged people's comfort. Our full code of conduct can be found at techtonica.org/conduct. Alrighty, so I did mention there was just a little housekeeping. Please edit your Zooms to include your pronouns. We would like to be able to talk with y'all now and in the future appropriately. Keep your mute on while others are speaking, please. And turn your cameras on. Let us take a look at you and see your wonderful faces. And I would love to also see in the chat, if you haven't already dropped where you dial it in from, share why you're interested in software engineering and Techtonica specifically. We'd love to see that. We are recording on this session, and we will also take a group screenshot later because, as I mentioned, we are so interested in your wonderful faces. And then all the information on the session is subject to change. We will likely communicate that, but I would say do your due diligence and making sure that you're keeping up with your process if you're interested. Once we have the recording ready to go, we will share this on YouTube. Alrighty, I would love to introduce y'all to the program staff, and I will start with Michelle Glosser, our founder.
Hi, everyone. It's great to have you here.
We also have myself. I will be the software training engineering manager who you'll be interfacing with if and when you are accepted into the program. And you'll see me every day. Yes. And then we also have Bree.
Hey everyone, I'm Technical Program Manager, and you'll also be seeing me every day if you get accepted in the program.
Yes, so we are the familiar faces. Well, let's get into all the juicy details of it, right? The full-time program. So this upcoming cohort will be 5 months of virtual full-time learning with about 10 to 20 size cohort with limited stipend scholarships and laptops available for those who need them, followed by a 6 months of placement or job search support from the community. And so we all know that placement is a huge differentiator when you're trying to get your foot in the door of the tech industry. And so that's what we really try to lean into, especially making sure to have those connections. So who's our target audience? Well, we have Black, Latinx, Indigenous women, and non-binary adults. We do not enforce an age cutoff. All are welcome to learn, and all of those people seeking economic empowerment. We feel that these are the people most in danger of displacement and also the most underrepresented in tech. So that's who we are looking to service. We get questions like, do you have ISAs or take a cut from participants' salaries following the program? No, we don't. We believe in empowering underrepresented people and not in placing additional burdens on them. we now have a sliding scale tuition model. Our tuition baseline starts at 18,000, which is about 1,000 per week total. We have done the math, and about 90 to 95% of our past participants would have been eligible for tuition and stipend scholarships by today's needs-based sliding scale subsidized tuition model. And so when considering how we arrived at that tuition amount, we considered the cost of other programs such as Hackbright at about $1,075 a week, as well as General Assembly at $2,183 a week. And so we arrived at that subsidized cost of $18,000 or the $1,000 a week to kind of give a baseline. The needs-based sliding scale subsidized tuition considers if the applicant has $18,000 beyond 10 months of living costs, whereby eligible applicants are able to apply for partial or full scholarships to assist with the subsidized costs. If you will not have 18,000 beyond the 10 months of living costs, you're eligible to apply for a partial or full-time scholarship. So if you will not be able to cover the tuition for that 10 months of living costs, please apply for that tuition scholarship as well as monthly stipends. Only those, however, determined to be in need for full scholarships will be considered for monthly stipends. All right. I am going to check the chat just for a quick moment, see if there's any questions coming through. All righty, I don't see any. I'm going to keep on moving, y'all. Community impact. If companies invest in junior talent and stop bringing in new talent and poaching seniors, they can alleviate the displacement and income disparity, which is, as we mentioned, some of our mission. And that's why we look to work with those specific populations in the community and change that divide. All righty. Yes, you all know we have a very selective process. So typically April to May or September to October is when we start that application process up. And welcome, you're already in the first step of that. That includes about 113 exercises in JavaScript as a prerequisition, and optional study groups. We have a short interest form. We have our Tuesday evening JavaScript study groups, our mandatory application workshops, pairing with staff, and then there's a take-home coding challenge after you get through all of that, if you get through all of that. And then moving down the line in the application process, there's also staff interviews, board interviews, and then finally financial conversations. I do see a great question in the channel. At what point in the process do we apply for this scholarship? It looks like Michelle went ahead and answered that. Thank you, Michelle. To apply for the tuition and stipend scholarship, just check yes in the second application form. Did you want to apply for tuition and stipend scholarships? All righty. And while I'm in the chat, will the study group sessions from January to April count towards the mandatory study group requirement? We are going to get into that, Tati, and a little bit later down the line. All righty, so that's the first part of the application process. After acceptance, then you take your agreement and a possible stipend paperwork. You let us know if you need MacBooks because we'll get them to you by day one. With onboarding, which is also mandatory, you will be getting to know your cohort, and your mentor will be paired with you following that day. And you will also have some individual as well as group pictures. And of course, when you're getting started in the industry, most importantly, personal pitch practice, because you're going to be networking, telling all the people all about yourself. That's important, right? So on onboarding day, those are some of the things that you'll be doing. And then you'll have some pre-work that's handed off to you 2 weeks before your start date. and it's approximately 10 to 20 hours-ish. There will be study sessions to help support with those. Alrighty. So some dates to remember, and Tati, this will answer your question. Feel free to write them down, or you can reference the resources you've been handed or the recording later. But the long application deadline is May 20th at 12 p.m. We have some study groups. These are the days and times. They're the same time, and they are all Tuesdays, excluding the last one. You must attend at least one study group after the short form stage. So if you are still going through the application process, make sure that, after you submit that short form, you need to attend an additional study group to fulfill that requirement. And then there will be an invite-only application workshop. And so we have two options just to give people some variety. Thank you, Michelle, for that note in the chat. I will read it for the recording. Just as a note that although some of the pictures in the presentation show people in person, the program is completely virtual, and you'll be expected to have your cameras on during meetings. All righty. Moving on to more dates, because there's all the dates. So then there will be pair programming with staff. These are the dates. Just as a notice for the returning applicants that have been invited to apply for this round, returning applicants that have been invited, they will have their pair programming sessions from May 20th to 24th, May 4th. Again, returning applicants that have already received invitations, their pair programming sessions will be May 20th to May 24th. And then there will be coding challenges immediately following your pair programming sessions, and you will have 24 hours to submit those after you do your pair programming with staff. Then staff and board interviews are the week of the 7th. And then finally, the long-awaited acceptance emails will go out June 13th. Again, if accepted, there's a mandatory onboarding day. That will be June 27th from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Pacific. So feel free to mark your calendars now so that you can reserve that space. And then pre-work will begin June 28th. With the listed study sessions being July the 2nd as well as the 3rd at the same time of 6 to 8. I'm seeing a great question come through the chat. May I ask how much the scholarship is? Thank you, Michelle. It's sliding scale, so it really depends on your personal financial needs. So there's no one size fits all for that number. All righty, what is this prereq that we have to do, Daima? Well, this prereq that you have to do is from FreeCodeCamp's first 113 lessons about basic JavaScript. So we really want to make sure that everybody's coming through with the same foundational knowledge and able to show that you're able to understand those foundational level skills. The prereq should take about 4 to 12 hours, depending on how you're pacing yourself. So make sure you start enough before the deadline comes up. Again, that's May 20th. And give yourself enough time to be able to ask questions and all that jazz. You will be uploading a screenshot of what you have completed to the application form. So be sure to use a tool that will capture every single completed assignment there. We want to see all 113, yes. There's tools like Blipshot Chrome extension. If you have like a screenshot, you can go ahead and use that tool on any computer or laptop that you're using. But the study groups are running through until May 31st, and you can utilize those spaces to kind of talk through some of those exercises that you're completing. I see a question in the chat. By any chance, will the links to these slides be shared previously? No, they have not been shared, but you will get a recording following the meeting. And once that's uploaded, we will also post it to the website. All righty. Moving on. What do we expect of you? What are we looking for? Well, we are seeking these sorts of characteristics in our participants. We specifically select participants that show these characteristics consistently, and we believe that these are the traits that will lead to hiring partners being very pleased with their decision to support our participants. So let's get into it. Vulnerability and resilience, excuse me. We know that a lot of this is scary and new, but it's important that you get very comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's all about software engineering. Every day you're gonna have some discomfort and you have to get comfortable with facing that discomfort. Autonomy. This is a semi-self-guided program. You're basically going to be given lists of tasks to complete every day, and we expect you to exercise autonomy to complete those tasks without us having to follow up with you, micromanage without being asked. And so what does autonomy mean, really? It doesn't mean do whatever you want. It means do what is expected of you for the day without somebody having to remind you. Coachability. You will get lots and lots of feedback throughout the program, lots and lots of feedback. Being able to take that feedback and implement it in a professional manner is a cornerstone of success in the program. Positivity and adaptability. This program and the learning environment is so different, very different than anything you've likely experienced before. And so it's extremely important that you take each day with a positive growth mindset, which is, I don't know this yet, but I'm excited to learn it. And it's okay that I don't know it now, but I will get there. So that's the kind of mindset we're looking for. And then there's collaboration. You will work every day with a randomly assigned group. You're going to be meeting new people all the time. Even when you're in the industry, you have to get used to working with different stakeholders, different teams. And so it's very important that you're able to communicate, help, and get along with all types of different people to create a safe and successful learning environment. Curiosity is another one. The world of tech is huge, and trust me, it is growing all the time. It's impossible for you to just kind of know everything out of the box, right? And so in order to succeed in the tech career that you are aiming for, you constantly have to be curious and constantly be okay with learning as things change. And then finally, logic. Well, Daima, that's pretty self-explanatory, right? We don't expect you to think like a computer right now. With our help, however, and lots of practice, the goal will be to come out of the program being able to structure programs in a very logical way. Now, I know that was a lot of characteristics. You will hear us kind of riddle this throughout the application process, but be mindful those are what we are looking for throughout that process. I am looking at the chats really quickly. Which specific courses are required within the JavaScript algorithms and data structures? Please consult the FreeCodeCamp 113 Basic JavaScript course to answer that question.
Quick side note on that, it looks like they changed their course. So I believe it's the pyramid generator one that's 109 instead of 113.
Okay, thank you. Y'all are winning out. Got a few less. Thank you for that call out. All righty. I see another question. I wanted to sign up for the May 14th study session, but it was sold out or filled. Can I still attend and get a link to participate? Why don't you email the info@techtonica.org so that we can talk about that after the info session. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Alrighty. I'm going to continue and then I'll pop back into the chat after. Oh, did I skip one? No, I didn't. Bree, take it away.
Hi again, everyone. So, to give an overview of the program, we have 2 months of learning technologies, 1.5 months of practicing with weekly projects, and 1 month for your final project. And we will also have job search preparation and soft skills throughout. And to break it down into more details, what that'll look like is the program will typically run Monday through Friday from 8 to 5 p.m. Pacific time. With some variations for meetings with staff, celebrations, organization-wide meetings, and workshops. There will be project-based collaborative learning of full-stack JavaScript with React and Node, and events with mentors and volunteers in the industry. We will be providing learning resources, but we will also be teaching you skills to find your own resources when you need them. There will be knowledge checks, mock interviews, and daily technical quizzes. The final project will be month 5 of the program, and interview practice will begin starting week 2 of the program. And then let's go to the next one. Can you go to the next slide? All right, and then the daily routine. So this will typically start with a stand-up led by a day lead, and each day there will be a new participant that straps on their leadership skills and helps to get the cohort centered for the day. Code challenges will be happening on Tuesdays through Thursdays, and pair programming will be happening Monday through Thursday. So you'll be starting with your code challenge, you'll be working alone or with your pair group, you'll have check-ins with the staff, you'll have pair programming towards the end of the day, and we'll have our wrap-up meeting. And there will be time that you will schedule with your mentor every week to meet with them, and that'll be something that you will have to coordinate with your mentor. Oh, and then the next slide is a more specific breakdown of the daily schedule. So from 8 to 8:45, morning stand-up, 8:45 to 9:15, we have our individual and partner code challenges. Your partners will change every day. And then 9:15 to 9:45, the group code challenge review, where we all sort of collaborate together and share our solutions and learn from each other. And then from 9:45 to 3 o'clock, it will be your self-guided learning using the resources that we provide. And then from 3 to 4, we'll have our pair programming practice, and 4 to 5, we have our wrap up. And that typically is we share the things that we're struggling with, and we kind of help each other continue to learn and grow.
Yeah, before we move on to the next slide for you, Bree, I just want to add that you all are expected once you're in the program to attend all of the meetings from your computer. And so during the rest of the time, you're expected to be reachable, even though you might not be on that meeting directly. But with communication, of course, there's flexibility for things that you can avoid, like picking up children from school or what other responsibilities that you have. So that communication is really important, but we do expect you to be available in between those mandatory meetings.
Yes, thank you, Daima. Mentoring. So what is a mentor? So we want to clarify, they're not there to be an instructor, but rather an industry guide or an occasional technical resource, and sort of an added layer of someone in your corner that is there to help encourage ways to help you think like a developer. And there will be more to come about that on onboarding day. Some things to consider. You can be removed from the program at any time based on things such as attendance, your collaboration, giving, receiving, and implementing feedback from staff and peers, focus, attention, and engagement during meetings, ability to keep up with the curriculum, weekly knowledge checks and technical questions, and openness with self and staff about how you are doing and what you need. Your cumulative score in the program must remain above 3.5. And there are potential financial consequences for quitting or being cut from the program, so make sure you read through the agreement and are ready to commit to this long-term career path. If you do complete the entire program, which is 5 months of training and a 6-month placement, or if we're unable to find you a placement, you do not need to worry about paying anything back. And more things to consider. We do not have traditional lectures. You will need to be able to motivate yourself, to follow rules, to work with others and do the assignments honestly and to the best of your ability without guidance. Collaboration is key to being successful in this program. And as we've noted, we have found a very strong connection between those that do well in the program and that those who are open with their feelings and able to communicate about what is going on, both emotionally and physically. We have many frank and opinionated discussions about feelings. We try to keep things candid and real. And there are many things in the program that will put you out of your comfort zone. It's important to embrace being uncomfortable and asking questions. That is key to success here. Kind of like diving into a cold pool to adjust to the temperature.
Well said, Bree. Well said. Yes, yes. So if any of that sounds like things that you're not quite ready to get into, that's okay. Feel free to apply again or ask us questions or stay in the community so that you can have practice at those characteristics. That's cool too. We want to keep seeing all of y'all. All righty. Limited stipends. Not everyone will receive a stipend. There is not a one-size-fits-all number for stipends. People that are interested in stipends or applying for a stipend scholarship will have financial conversations, which will determine if you qualify for the needs-based sliding scale tuition or the stipend scholarship. That is the last step of the process of the application. Need for a stipend is not taken into consideration for program acceptance. So that's a separate conversation and it's not a deterrent. Limited placements. Yes, there are limited placements. We can only teach so many of you at once. So the program and stipends are funded by our sponsor companies that agree to offer 6 months of placements to our graduates. And so we really hone into making sure that we give y'all that tailored time frame. Placements, however, they can be titled internships, apprenticeships, regular employment. Any placements start within a month of graduation, so they can start during that time frame. And in the past, have typically been paid at least $40 an hour. Before I continue talking about the placements, I just want to address, I know there were plenty of questions about the 113 code exercises. So we did go ahead and confirm in the chat that you will in fact be using the link that routes to the old 113 exercises. So if you're looking for that, it's freecodecamp.org /learn/JavaScript -algorithms-and-data-structures. And we can post that into the chat again. Bree, if you could copy and paste that in there for them. Thank you so much. Alrighty. I'm going to continue with this slide and then I'll check the chat one more time. But again, historically, typically, the placements have started at least $40 an hour. And also historically, about 75% of our placed graduates are converted to full-time employees or have their contracts extended for another 6 months of placement. We're working always constantly on securing placements for the next cohort. At this time, we cannot guarantee we'll find any placements, but we're always working on that.
Someone asked a question in the chat. Do we generally get paired with companies local to us, or are we expected to relocate, or are they remote positions?
Ooh, good question. So all of our placements, while you are placed for that 6 months following the software engineering training, are remote. It's a kind of a later discussion after your placement contract is exhausted, whether the company will ask you to come in to the location or be remote completely or hybrid. That's a conversation for you all after that time period.
Can I just jump in, Diana, and say, so far that's been the case. If we were to have a company say, we can only do these placements in this one location, we would probably not want to turn that down and instead see which people would be willing to relocate. So you will get to rate that if there are placements available.
Yes, and we are typically very, very candid about that level of communication that the sponsors gives us once we have more information about placement. So if and when you are in the program and you're a participant, once we know, you'll know. That's usually the name of the game. Alrighty, let's keep it moving. Thanks, Michelle. Application questions. Alrighty, so this particular slide is just to kind of address some of the common questions that we've got in the past. So during your application process, references will in fact be contacted a couple of weeks after the application deadline. We will send them a link to a Google form. Any email references will not be read. You'll be informed via email if you made it to the next round of the application process within a week of the deadline for each portion. So be sure to reference those dates that were from the previous slide at your leisure. Please sign up for the study groups, which can be found at Eventbrite page, which is techtonica.eventbrite.com. And if the income calculator does not account for the number of dependents you have, please see the difference in the amount from the second to last number of dependents to the last. Then add that much for each additional dependent. Please put an explanation and the math that you did in the portion of the application that will ask for any of those particular details. The more information you give us, especially about numbers, is going to be helpful. It is strongly recommended to make a copy of your questions and answer them in a separate doc before filling out the form. The form is long, and every application process we hear from people who have a lot of work, when their computer's shut down or something occurs, and that's not fun, losing all that work and having to regenerate it. Alrighty, I am popping over to the chat. Let's see what y'all got.
We got 2 questions. For this cohort, how many applicants will be accepted?
Yeah, so on one of the previous slides, we said that we're shooting for 10 to 20 applicant size cohort. Who will be doing the financial interviews? That is one of the staff. Very excited about this. Yay, Jessica, we're excited for you. What kind of references are accepted, professional or personal? Please reference your application materials. This is also listed on the website. I feel like I'm missing anything. Okay, I went through every person who's graduated LinkedIn, and some people have been in their roles for 5 years. Ooh, Jessica, you are thorough. I was very impressed by how many people I saw who had placements after finishing the program. Well, we are happy to hear that you are impressed. We're impressed with our graduates as well. All righty, I am gonna move on down the line. More things to consider. We don't want anyone to feel discouraged if they don't get in the first time. This is a rigorous application process, and there's a lot of y'all applying each and every time. So keep learning, keep applying. Sometimes it takes 3 times the total allotted amount of times that you can apply to get in. And again, remember, it's pretty competitive. Our acceptance rate is steadily declining from 8% acceptance. So do your due diligence, stay active in the community, show face that you can keep up to those characteristics, and so that we can see that in you and you'll develop those skills that you need to be successful. And all of our new cohorts typically start January and July. I'm seeing another question pop in. Do you have to join a study session before May 20th? The only one that I found that wasn't sold out was on the 21st. So I will work with staff to see if we could possibly open up more of those sessions. And as far as the having to join, you just need to make sure that you join that one session after you complete the short form. Great question, Christina. All righty. Personal support needs and communication. We are constantly talking to our community about communication and our graduates. And if and when you are in the program, you'll hear it from me each and every day, probably more than once. But as you are going through the application process, please, please, please communicate. We want to help you. If you have a special circumstance, bring it up. Bring it up during the process, bring it up during the program. You have got to communicate so that we can support and adjust where able. Tell us what's going on, especially while you're in the program, so that we can adjust how you're walking through the program if needed and able. We are always able to offer sympathy. We're able to brainstorm solutions. We've had applicants or program participants lose housing, break their laptop, become pregnant, face abuse, etc. And so being open about those things, especially as they can impact your ability to participate in the program, is going to be really helpful. So inform us so we can figure out the best way to move forward for you all as you're in the program. All righty, let's see what else we got. Ooh, I love this part. A group screenshot. Okay, everybody fixed their hair. Yes, it's time to be glamorous. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And if you could be so gracious, come off of, turn your cameras on, I should say. Turn those cameras on. I want to see everyone's lovely faces, and I am going to take a group screenshot. We'll do a really cool one, and then we maybe can do a funny one. What do y'all think? Okay, I'm preparing my screenshot tool. I'm dragging and dropping it. Any last calls for turning on those cameras? All right, 1, 2, 3. Okay, who wants to join me in a funny face one? Because those are always fun after, right? Okay, ready? Who's got the funniest face? 1, 2, 3. All right, I'm gonna look back on those later and see who's got the funniest face. All right, let me just take a look at the chat, see if anything else came through, and then I'm gonna pop back over to share my screen so we can get through the rest of the slides. Do we need to have the FreeCodeCamp course finished before we do the short form application? No, you just need that done prior to close of application. But you also want to consider that the level in which you are submitting those. So the short form, I don't believe it asks for that submission. I believe that's the long form, which is after the short form. But hey, if you want to give it to us before then, feel free to email it. We might ask for it again on the application, but go for it. It's always good to be thorough. Just as a reminder, you want to make sure that after the short form, you attend that study session. That's a requirement. All right, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. We are going to get back into our scheduled event here. All right, we did our lovely screenshot. Okay, we're going to have a little time for Q&A, but I want to make sure that I prioritize questions that have not already been answered. So if questions have been answered on the full-time website, I will reference that. I know that's not what you want to hear, but I want to prioritize this time an event for specific questions that haven't been answered. So if it's been answered, I'll reference where to find it. If it's something that I'm not too privy of, or it's a specific individual use case, I may also tell you to email us. So not necessarily a deflection, just want to give more time and dedication to your question. Alrighty, now that I've said that, what are your questions? What do we've got? Feel free to come off mute or throw them into the chat. I'm gonna head over to the chat and take a look. Ooh, y'all are good. Let's see what we got. Is low income a prerequisite for acceptance into the program? Now that we have the needs-based sliding scale tuition and scholarship stipends, no, it is not a prerequisite. Do we need to have the FreeCodeCamp course finished before we do the short form application? Oh, I just answered that. When are we supposed to submit the short form application? I would do that ASAP, y'all. Do that ASAP. Details about that as well as far as the timeline are also on the full-time webpage. Will you be addressing the pre-submitted questions? I do not have pre-submitted questions in my bank right now. However, I know that we take time to go over each and every one of those, typically following, and so you would get an email. That's a good question. Anyone feeling brave enough to come off mute? Anyone want to talk with me? Any questions? I will also
Yes, I have a question.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just curious as to why are the participants required to have MacBooks versus like any other laptop?
Yeah, that's a good question. So all of our curriculum is based in doing all of the assignments with MacBook operations. And so we want to be able to quickly assist you. Obviously, after the program, you're not required to utilize the MacBook, but our curriculum is based around that. Most of our sponsors also typically by default hand off MacBook computers and laptops to placements. And so it's also a helpful idea to understand that ecosystem when you go into placements. Of course, you can also say to them like, hey, I prefer other operating systems, and they'll let you know how they can work with you. But yeah, we have grads who, don't prefer Mac and they used it in a program and went right back to their own operating systems. That's a good question.
I have a question. First of all, nice to meet you. Dama, is it?
Bye, Ima. Nice to meet you.
Naima. Okay, nice to meet you. I missed the first part of the program. What is it that you do at Techtonica? That's one. And number two is, will you be providing the MacBooks?
Good question. So I am the software training engineering manager, and Bree, who's also on the call, is our technical program manager. So I kind of lead the program, and Bree is there day to day just alongside me to help you with more specific technical details, and I kind of do the overarching program management. And so as far as the MacBooks go, if you don't have one or you are in need of one, you just let us know once you get to that spot in the application, and then we will make sure you have one on day one. Thank you, Bree, for putting that into the chat. There are some differences between development on Mac versus development on Windows. You might struggle or find yourself with less support if you try to move through our curriculum without a Mac. Thank you. Any other questions? And feel free to shoot Bree and I questions as well. We're alumni of the program as well. So we went through placements and then just boomerang back into the ecosystem.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
So a lot of other boot camps have kind of like a 10 to 12-month like learning programs. I'm just wondering, how do you guys feel like you differentiate with kind of just like that 5 months of learning? And do you feel like, that it preps people enough, I guess?
Yeah. So our past 6-month program, the last month is typically reserved solely for placement prep. And so we've kind of shaved that off to give people the opportunity to connect with their placement ecosystem and kind of lead the charge on that autonomously. And so we're not taking away from the curriculum exactly. We're just taking away that last prep month of support. And so that support will look different. It'll mean that maybe once a week you're meeting with your cohort, supposing to meet with your cohort life happens, maybe you're doing stuff on the side, or you're a caregiver or what have you. And so you might miss things. And so you say, hey, I want to meet individually during that time. That level of support will look different during that 1 month following, instead of having the full day each day, having that support. I feel like there was another question that you had. Did I answer your whole question?
Yeah, but yeah, thank you.
Sure. How long ago did you and Bree graduate? Ooh. I graduated in June, I want to say May or June of 2019. Then I went over to SurveyMonkey, and was there for about 4-ish years, also doing work in other places, volunteering mostly. And then, yeah.
I graduated in June of 2021 and got my internship at Stack Overflow and got converted to a full-time position there for 2 years.
Nice. What do the experience levels of those in the cohort typically look like? That's a great question. I love that question, actually. It varies, I will say. We've had people that come from construction background, biology background, Starbucks background, people that are, maybe data analysts or something. So it's a wide range. It really is. And that's why we have those eligibility requirements for a reason. We don't want someone that's gone from an adjacent program like a boot camp, and haven't already had that training, just to kind of come into a similar opportunity. We want to remove barriers for people that haven't had the opportunity to train from 0 and get all the way to 100. So I love that question each and every time because you don't have to have a technical background. Bree put in the chat, I have a design background. Yes. My background was in nonprofit management and grassroots development. Don't be shy, y'all. This is your time. Don't be shy.
Can I ask, Daima, you said you were volunteering also. Did that have to do with your current career development?
That's a great question. I always try to blend what I'm doing, so that it develops the different skills that I'm hoping to, I guess, skill up. So the volunteering that I was doing alongside working at like SurveyMonkey was adjacent. So like Hack the Hood in San Francisco. I was teaching like coding classes at my hometown. I was working with organizations in Oakland to service similar populations. And so I was leaning into like my technical program management skills as well as my coding skills, because coming out of the program, they were so fresh. And so I wanted to have an array of opportunity to be able to further develop those skills. All righty. Well,
I have a quick question.
yes,
One last final one. Can you hear me okay, by the way? I'm like on my phone, but also the computer.
I can hear you.
Awesome. Just a quick clarification on that income calculator. So I live with my partner, but we are unmarried. When it asks for household income, I'm only including myself. Is that okay? Is that how folks should be approaching it?
That is a good question. You will have more questions that are more specific in the long application. I have 2 answers after this statement. So the first answer is if you are doing that in the short form, go ahead and submit as you see fit. Long form will ask more specific questions. However, if the long form questions are still confusing, please email us. Because it's different for every household. Maybe you and your partner have income that, would work for the off chance that you decide to stop working while you do the program. And so we want to kind of understand the situation that's unique to everyone. When in doubt, always email. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course. Any other questions?
I do have one. I saw on your website that it says you provide accommodations for ADHD, are those kind of standard? How would those work within the program?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have some resources that were developed by our graduates who have ADHD and other neurodivergent conditions. And so we like to hear from them, but they generously crafted those resources so that we as staff, as well as their counterparts, can be able to understand their needs, as well as identify ways that we can kind of accommodate. And so again, with that communication that we're always going to be shouting out, we can't like go through the program and say, do you have ADHD? Do you have ADHD or any other neurodivergent condition? But with that communication, like for example, with your one-on-ones, you can let us know, what's worked for you in the past. If the resources for us feel like they can be more robust, do you have anything to contribute? Do you have any suggestions? And so we would pivot certain things according to what your needs are. For example, if you prefer like a recording of lectures or something, we could work with you on that. Or if your one-on-ones have to be at the top of the day instead of at the evening, those are conversations that we would need to have one-on-one to make sure that you are able to put your best foot forward and we're able to support you doing that.
Thank you.
Of course. I think I see some more questions. I saw on LinkedIn where folks had previous training for development. Would that disqualify applicants today? So that is actually answered on the website, but as a gist, your eligibility factors, for example, they may have had development training through a course and not a boot camp adjacent program or like CS degree or training, things like that. Those are the things that we kind of make sure that people who haven't had access and opportunity to, we're making sure that we're prioritizing those people. What program languages do you teach and what kind of projects have students worked on? Ooh, great question. So we teach with the Pern stack, which is Postgres, Express, React, and Node, amongst other technologies and languages, of course. But those are the priorities. And so they build things like, they start out with things like recipe pages, and then they go all the way to like full stack applications that have like a database and working with APIs and a front end that's really pretty and responsive across all devices. And it progresses as the program iterates and goes through.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Help me understand. So this course prepares us to be software engineers, right? How is that different than like a web developer or like a person who builds websites? Because there's a lot of that I hear we do in the program.
Yes, this is always a nuanced question, right? Tech industry and coding and web development, front-end developer, back-end, all those things. And so I will give my personal response and then the industry response. Web development is kind of a generic term that primarily focuses on what your user is seeing and interacting with. And so it's front end leaning with, general overarching understanding of the other things like databases, APIs, back end. As far as industry and what we are working up to with our participant training, we make sure that you are hitting every level. So full stack software engineering is the terminology that we are using because you're going to be exposed to everything and not just web development. You'll be exposed to working with data. You'll be exposed to working with other technologies that aren't necessarily specifically front-end web development based. Thank you, Bree. Software engineering is an umbrella term. Web development is one area of that umbrella. Yes. Alrighty, I am going to move on through, but feel free to email us or submit questions elsewhere so that we can get back to you one-on-one. Just as a reminder, Applications are open until May 20th at noon. At noon, y'all, Pacific time. So please be sure to read through the full-time program page on the website, spread the word, share the love, tell your neighbor, tell your dog, your cat, your hamster, and get your friends to apply so that we can continue the application process. And don't be shy, connect to us, y'all, connect. For the last cohort, how many applicants were there? Oof. How many applicants or people in the cohort? How many applicants? I don't have the hard and fast number, but I know it was definitely more than 300. Alrighty. We have just a few more minutes for questions. I'm going to stop sharing so I can look at everybody. I've just been looking at all my resources. Any last questions or comments?
I have one last question. If I have a very, very specific to me question about the whole application process, would I email you or would I email the program director?
So info@techtonica.org will go to our person that specifically takes care of the application process, kind of background details. But if it's something that's like very one-time use case, they'll route it back over to me. So
Okay,
those questions just end up my way anyways, y'all.
thank you.
Yes, I love that. Bree, thank you for sharing your LinkedIn. Don't be shy, y'all. Connect with them. Yes. And y'all, if y'all see me on LinkedIn, don't be shy either. I will throw my email in the chat because I'm kind of seldom on LinkedIn these days. But if you have any comments or questions, feel free to route them my way as well. Don't be shy. Y'all got 1 whole minute left. This is your time. Use it. Will there be any part-time program in the future? You know, that is something that we have thought about. At this time, I will say no to that. But it's definitely been a topic of discussion. How is the career support like? Yes. Oh, I love these questions. The job support. So during the program, because we are kind of shaving off that last month of the prep, we will be kind of boosting the career and the networking and the job skills, advancing that in the curriculum. So you'll get a lot of that during the 4th and 5th month to make sure that you're kind of rounded out, and the people that we're exposing you to during those last 2 months, you'll have those connections. You'll have those connections kind of getting you ready for the job placement support after the program. And so following the program, let's say you're not placed. And I'll talk about even if you're placed. If you're not placed, you still are working with your mentor. Your mentors don't go away following the program. Your mentors are there to work with you for the 6 months after, even if you are placed. And then you also have access to the community. So Bree, Michelle, whoever, all the staff, we don't go away. But you have to be proactive about how you connect with us. So we have once a week connection with our cohort people. And then after 6 months of the once a week connection with your cohort, then it drops down to like once a month. So that's about a year of making sure that automatically you have something on the calendar. And then, as I said, just being proactive about reaching out. So following the program, the one-on-ones, we won't bug you about those anymore. You will have the once a week and then the 1 month on calendar, but you come up to us and you say, hey, I saw that you were connected on LinkedIn with this person. Can you make an intro? Or, hey, can you look at my resume? Or we also have something in the past that's called Seeker Program, and that's dedicated time and space to kind of re-review some of the topics or go over coding challenges together, or interview prep. And so we have a wide variety of ways to offer career support. How how structured is the daily schedule? I'm not going to go over that again because it was covered at the top of the presentation. So just be sure to watch the recording and then you'll be able to see that. I do see that there's more questions in the chat, but I think Jessica has had their hand up for a while, so I'd love to answer your question. You are on mute. There you go.
Hello. So sorry, I was like, before I committed to doing the JavaScript training, I wanted to make sure it was something that I wanted to do. So I went through every person's like resume on LinkedIn that ever attended the program. Because some of them, like you look and you'll see like the people just dropped off, but not with this one. So one thing I noticed is a lot of people had their placements at the same place. There were a lot of people at PlayStation, Stack Overflow, and SurveyMonkey. And so I'm just curious, how do you decide? Because I noticed that most of the people that worked at those types of places that also got their placements, a few people did their placements other places and they may not have converted over. So I'm just curious, how do you pick the placements? I know you said that the sponsors sponsor people, but how does that connection happen? And then, like,
Yep. I love that question. Yes, because that's all the details that we want to know, right?
yeah.
That's one of the leading factors about why Techtonica is so impactful, because we have these placement offerings. And so the sponsors, before we even get to the talk of placements and matching people up and sending them off, they kind of have to meet similarly to our characteristics. They have to be in sync with our mission and understand, the level that people are coming in at and being willing to support and mentor them alongside our own community. And so we have a very rigorous matching process that includes either interviewing from the sponsors to the potential participant or placement parties. And then y'all also interview them back. It's not just a one-way interview, it's a conversation. And then they rate you based on the technical skills that you demonstrated, as well as the soft skills, core skills, and then vice versa. Y'all rate them. And then we run that through an algorithm process. That's how the matching goes as far as getting y'all there. But as far as how we decide who goes where, once that algorithm tells us what those rankings are, who goes where, who has a preference for what. And this is very detailed information that you'll learn in the program. Who goes where. That's when you start having conversations with the partners to figure out if you in fact do want to move forward with going there, which is typically a yes. After your placement, however, you can negotiate to have your contract either extended, or maybe you'll go to a different team, or just like you saw on LinkedIn, you'll go to a different place. And the really robust part about having a community like Techtonica is a lot of the sponsors send volunteers or people that work at those sponsor places. They're just really passionate. And so they'll be a part of your network automatically when you are job searching, just kind of going back to that career support question. They're ready to be in your corner. We have tech help channels specific to cohorts. We have tech help channels specific to the whole community. And so sometimes even just networking with those available resources can land you another role in a similar place that we've already kind of vetted. I want to just call something out. For some reason, my head thought that we were stopping right now. No, y'all got another hour on calendar with me, so don't be shy, okay? Don't be shy. Alrighty, I'm gonna check the chat. Before I do that, Jessica, did that answer your question?
No, yeah, it did. Because I wasn't sure if we were just gonna be like, we have to pick, or like, I don't know. I just want, it sounds like you set us up for success with the matching and the interviewing beforehand, instead of just like a random internship and then we don't know how it's gonna go and then we're just there. So that alleviated some of my thoughts. Thank you.
Of course. Alrighty, let's go back over to the chat. Which employers hire students the most? I will not say any particular employers specifically, but we just like some of the names that people have mentioned on the call, Sony, Stack Overflow, have been some Cisco Meraki. And it's always kind of a evolving ecosystem, right? We always try to have conversations with different places. There's a bunch of our videos on YouTube as well as on the website where we highlight past sponsors. So feel free to take a look at those cool resources to answer your questions. All right, I'm going down the line. What are some of the titles that graduates typically have? How many have non-technical roles versus technical, like project management, design, and software developers, for example? Ooh, I'm going to answer that in two parts. So all of the roles that we place into are technical, every single one of them. In the past, we've had some people lead into like technical support. Primarily, we shoot for software development roles. So you won't see us slanting people into project management or design roles. However, this is my second part of the answer. We have had graduates where they're like, yeah, I did my placement. I wasn't really into that, but I love that I have this knowledge and it transfers to another role. So I'm going to use this community to, do and work into another role, like technical management, technical project management or design or what have you. So there's definitely opportunity to move around if you need to in the future. I'm going to cut away from the chat for a moment. Jessica, did you have another question? Is that the same Jessica?
Oh yeah, sorry, my bad.
Okay. Just kidding. Popping back over to the chat. For those of us who are reapplying from the previous application, do we just submit the life update form before May 8th? That's all, right? And continue going to study sessions. Yes. Yes. I'm so glad that you are great at reading. Yes. So if you have had a specific invite, if you were an applicant from the last round of applications that kind of got cut off and you were invited with an email from Techtonica that gave you a whole list of instructions with a bunch of dates and a bunch of other clicky stuff with links, then yes, May 8th is that deadline. If you have questions about all those things, please, please, please respond to that email. And then, yeah, you would just continue along in the process from where you were. Aleda, thank you for that question. I'm going to pop over to Ashley. I see their hands raised. What you got?
I'm just curious, are all the companies that you guys work to place people with, have they all expressed like a commitment to making their working environment welcoming places for people, for women, for LGBTQ, for POC?
Yes. Yes. And that's one of the things that we hit home with, even as we begin conversations, before they even say, okay, yeah, give us your people. Just as we kind of highlighted those characteristics, that was a breeze compared to how strongly we make that point with our sponsors. Pretty much every time there's a conversation between staff, between Michelle, between our partnerships manager, anytime there's an interaction with our partners, that's always highlighted. And there's specific conversations before they are even brought on as partners to make sure that there's training for potential volunteers, people that are onboarding into the community, to make sure that they are accommodating and understand our mission and that they understand ways to learn more and support. I love that question.
Thank you.
Of course. Okay. Is it Saswati? I don't want to mess that up, so please correct me if I said that wrong.
You are so right. Thank you so much for pronouncing it right. So I have a thank you. This is my first time I'm attending this program and knowing this. So I have, just still learning. The quick questions that I have here is for the cohort. Everyone has some solid IT backgrounds because for me, I'm looking for entry-level IT projects. Do you have any programs for non-IT people entering in IT, or what is your placements look like? Already have like 5 years of experience cohort, or like I have a couple of years of experience more in IT support, but I am not from IT background. So my education is not from IT. So I'm looking for a program that I can, not only it will help me to place in Bay Area, either remote, hybrid, I don't care. I mean, on-site, I'm a Bay Area, and also that will be not really, I don't know if they still distinguish about the age and all that, but that should not be an issue also. These are the two things. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
I love that your question kind of resurfaces some of those key points that we reiterated. So no age barrier. I think in my cohort long time ago, we had ranges from people right out of high school to people that had been on their third career path. So there's no age barrier. That's very specific. And if you kind of need some further validation, it is in fact written in black and white or in blue, depending on the font of the page of our website. And then, yeah, I didn't come from any type of technical background. When I say nothing, I mean, the closest to me having technical background was me pimping out my MySpace way back when, if y'all remember those days. That's it. I had no coding background. And we have a lot of applicants, even people that get into the program that have zero technical background. And that's why we ask that you do the 113 problems so that you all come in at that same foundational baseline. That's why we have these study sessions to get you acclimated to learning kind of programmatically. That's why we have this big community to make sure that you're supported. That's why we have the mentors so that even outside of staff, and all the structure and the rigorous intensity and the projects that you'll be building to kind of help you go from 0 to 100. You also have people in the industry that you can consult and help you think more programmatically and just about going into tech industry as a whole. I hope that answered your question. Did that?
Yes, that's great. I will definitely like to know about the pre-required course that will help. The foundations, how they go, and the starting date of the cohort, and how long, those kind of like a general questions. Is it any specific date in mind?
Yeah, so our start date, I do not have that off the top of my head right now, but let me take a look. I believe it's July 16th. So even before start date, there's other things that people who are accepted into the program, they have to do. So they have to go to an onboarding, that's mandatory. They have to do prerequisite work. That's following all the steps that you have to do for the application. And so just as it's outlined for you, the 113 foundations, that's the screenshot that you have to submit during the application process. I highly recommend y'all go to those study groups because it really will unlock some of the ways that you pair program with people, and you'll get access to seeing how other people think about code, especially if it's new to you. Trust me, as someone who didn't know anything about JavaScript or other languages, it's good to be exposed to that stuff. As far as so you asked about start date, you asked about the prerequisites. All that's outlined on the website. I don't think the start date is on the website, but all the stuff leading up to starting the program is on the website. There was one or two other things that you asked, and I feel like I'm not answering them. So if you remember, please re-ask me.
Yeah, I asked for the date and you said July 13 probably, and it will be end in December, if I'm correct.
So mid-July is when the program will start itself. However, I want to highlight ahead of the program start date, that there are other prerequisites to the starting of the program. So 2 weeks before the start date, there's prerequisite. So similarly to the 113 courses, there's work that you'll have to do to make sure that you're meeting that foundation. So application people, we're all showing that we have the capacity to learn, that we're really committed to learning JavaScript. Awesome. That's step one in addition to the application process. Before you even come to day one, there's some more learning to be done. So we'll really make sure you all start at the same spot. And that's where that prerequisite comes from. And then as far as the ending, about mid-November is when the cohort is set to end. Yes, Ashley, I see you, but I have been missing the chat, so I just want to pop over there real quick. Do do do. Ooh, y'all are in there. I gotta scroll up. Okay. Hi, how many days a week will be the training, and is it online, in person, and also how long? So this is all on the website, but just in case anyone missed it, 5 days a week, 5 days a week. It's full time, so 8 to 5 Pacific time. So even if you are in Chicago, you're going to be logging in Pacific time. Is it online or in person? We used to be in person. Oh my goodness. But now we have transitioned and broadened to online. So it's 100% online, 100% remote. And this next cohort will be 5 months. Monday through Friday. Thank you, Elena. um, That's what's so exciting about this. You're not too old. You're never too old, Jessica. Would like to know about the prerequisite courses. Yeah, I think we just talked about that again. Bree, if you could, when you're available, throw the link in there so that Saswati has access to that. Thank you so much. Okay, back to you, Ashley. What you got for me?
Do we need to finish the free code camp course before we do our study group?
That depends on where you are at with the study group. So the short answer is no. So for example, if you haven't done the short form yet, or the long form, technically no. However, you have the requirement of one study group following the short form. So that requirement is still going to be there wherever you're at with the 113 courses. I don't believe that completing those courses is dependent of the study group.
Thank you.
It's dependent on the short form.
Thank you.
Can you please expand on what is expected during the invite-only digital literacy testing and JavaScript event? That is a mouthful of a title. Okay, so the invite-only mandatory workshop applications is where you would have gotten through several steps to kind of show that you're eligible, you're capable, you're ready, and you meet all the requirements so far. And so then we have some pair programming sessions with y'all. We also have kind of an observant session. And y'all can find out more details about this in previous workshops, but just to give you the inside scoop, the mandatory sessions are where we kind of evaluate you for some of those characteristics. And so we want to see how you work with other people, how you can illuminate to you having those characteristics. And a lot of that will be very easy to do if you've gone to several of the study groups because you've already been in the environment and we've already kind of helped you to kind of bring those out of yourself and be able to share and showcase that with the people that you're working with. And we do that because I'm just going to reiterate, you're always going to hear me reiterate this even during the program. You'll get tired of it and hear it ringing in your ears as you're going through placement. But we do that because those skills are so impactful when you're going through placement or when you're going into the industry, especially as women in non-binary groups. And they make all the difference of you being a high quality software engineer because you have those key core skills. You're able to talk to stakeholders. You're able to work independently, but also pull somebody into a problem. You're able to show that you adapt on the fly. And so those characteristics that we kind of called out at the beginning of the session, that's what we're going to be looking for in that invitation only testing JavaScript event. You'll be doing some coding exercises. People will be staring at you on the Zoom. You'll be going into breakout rooms and having fun coding. Yes, Saswati.
Thank you. I have one more questions. You said from mid-July, the cohort is starting. So what is the, do you take participations every day? Like, I know summer is a bit erratic because of the travel plans. From August, it's more like, all settled down. So what is, in that case, what should be, I will be doing? Because I have some travel plans in July, and it's starting from mid-July. So, and it's full day.
Yeah.
That's one questions. What are your, requirements for to be on camera? The second thing, can I get like a recording later if I cannot be in the camera? And what are the like a placement guarantee kind of thing, if you can talk a little bit about? So I know you cannot guarantee the performance if someone is not studying, that's their fault, but still, we're going all the precautions on everything. What is the guaranteed placement here?
Yes,
Better.
you are coming in hot with those good questions. So, placement, we can't guarantee it. Right now, we have no guaranteed sponsors for any number of the incoming cohort. But those usually come in like during the cohort. We have had cohorts where there weren't, and we ended up getting placements after they graduated. So it just really depends on the ecosystem of tech right now and how quickly we can get people onboarded into the mission and training them up so that we can make sure that they can respect and support our community. As far as the baseline guaranteeing of who gets those placements, again, we have our matching process. You have to be doing the work. So for each of your assignments, there's kind of like a background rating, and we look for a minimum of 3.5 for each of those ratings. You'll learn way more about that if and when you're placed into the program. I'm not going to get into those details here. But that's the baseline. You need to maintain that throughout the program. As far as, oh, my brain, it just went through this ear and out the other. You had two more questions. What were your other questions, Saswati?
No, sorry, I'm just piling it or making it hard. So just, the question is if someone is traveling, so what is your like, roll call, or do you have any such things that you have to be present, no, you can be absent more than 5 days or something like that?
Yeah, so our website gets into that in pretty good detail. And then even as you are giving an offer, there's like stats and stuff that come with that. So the short and sweet to that is communication. You need to communicate. We expect that you are going to be in the program every single day. There's not going to be like a dropping of someone if they miss one day, right? And if you communicate ahead of time and we have like an out of office calendar, you have one-on-ones with us, we can anticipate things. However, if we see that maybe you're not communicating about showing up and you don't show up and we don't know what's going on, that's where a different discussion would be had, just like any other learning program. As far as being on camera, off camera, again, communication. I've had meetings where I'm like at a doctor's office and I'm leading the meeting. And so I might go off camera for a while while I'm walking into a room or something. That's very abnormal, but just as an example, we've had where some people, their kids are homesick. And so maybe they got little kiddos in their lap and they're going to be off camera. Communication is key to make sure that you're able to, make the most and we're able to support you. As far as traveling, we have had people plan things in advance, like years in advance, 2 years in advance. Communication. However, if you anticipate that you're going to be out of office and completely off grid for like a month, 2 months, you have to determine how best you're going to be able to do in the program if you are cutting out a chunk of your time to not be accessible for that program. So definitely communicate those things. There's always opportunity to reapply if you anticipate that you're going to have to shift when you apply into the program. This community is robust, even if you don't get in now. We're constantly having our study groups. If you are in the pre-applicants channel, they mingle with our graduates all the time. So don't be shy. There was one other question.
Yeah. Do we get the recording? Yeah, that's all. Like if we miss it, because July is the time frame, I'm just bit like August, everything settles down, the summertime. So that's
Okay.
the question I have. For a couple of weeks, if I'm not here, I know any cohort starts with, you know, a lot of easy going, and then the real stuff comes after 2 weeks.
Wow.
But is it something like that?
So what I will say to that, I misspoke in saying yes. I thought you were talking about the recording for this session. We do offer recordings of most of our meetings for people that have other responsibilities, like a doctor's appointment or something on occasion. However, we don't recommend that any one participant takes off multiple weeks at a time during the program because it is so rigorous. You'll go from not knowing anything about one technology to using it several times and then some by the end of the week, as well as building a robust program or project. And so if you're missing out on a lot of that, as well as the support and the questions that come in between, it's going to be really hard to do well and be a good candidate replacement. And so being able to communicate that well ahead of time. Like, for example, we've had people where they're like, okay, I know I planned this meeting to Japan 2 years ago, and I know it's going to be on these dates. Let's plan. Let's make a plan so I can do well. That's the communication that we're looking for. But if it's like a week ahead of time, you're like, oh, I'm going to be out for 3 weeks. So deuces. Like, no, that's not what we're looking for. This is not what we're looking for. And then there's things that happen, you know, just as we mentioned during the slides, you know, people have lost housing, they've gone through abusive partnerships, they've had babies. That's why we believe so fervently in communicating and being able to do so vulnerably, if I can speak, because everybody's situation is different. So I can't say, yes, you can plan for having a month off, or yes, you can plan for having 3 weeks off. I cannot say that. It really just depends on what's going on.
Okay, I have a question, and I'm sorry I don't have the option to raise my hand. I got a special link for this meeting. So the schedule is going to be 8 to 5. Would you do we have homework after those hours that we need to work on after 5? Or is that just the time we have for ourselves?
Most often, yes, there will be homework. To get more into that, so you'll have learning material during the day, and then most often there will be things like projects and things that maybe you didn't get to during the day, and so that might spill over into your personal time. What I will say is I've always told people going through the program, plan that out. Plan that out as much as you can, because I was a mom with 2 kids under 4. I was homeless. I was going through an abusive relationship, and I was able to juggle all of that craziness because I planned things out. If I didn't plan anything out, y'all, my brain would have gone crazy if I hadn't planned that time management. And so you need to be able to determine during the day, okay, is watching this video on maybe ×2 or 1.5 or just normal, is that going to take precedent over me researching these new tools? It really just depends on your learning style. And then also communicate. Communicate with your mentor. Maybe you want to talk about the requirements for an assignment for the week. And then for some people, it's very easy. So short and sweet. There's no specific homework. We're not going to say, okay, this is your homework for today, this is your homework for tomorrow, but there are assignments throughout the week for you to build. I hope that answered your question. Did that? Okay. Ashley, yes.
You mentioned something earlier, just in brief and passing, about like pre-applicants networking with some of your graduates on some kind of platform, but I didn't catch what platform that is. Is there a place we can go to have those conversations?
Yeah, so usually if you've already submitted for being an interest, which most of you're here, so you should have been invited to our Slack community. So first step I would say is maybe search your email to see if you got like a Slack email, and then walk through that process. If you didn't get that email, or you can't find it, or you don't feel like looking for it, I don't know. Email info@techtonica.org so they can send you an invitation and make sure that you are added to the pre-applicant Slack channel.
Thank you.
Yep. And you can bug people on LinkedIn too. We're not shy. Yes. Y'all are just doing the thing. I love these questions. You are thorough. Y'all probably watched the pre-recordings from last sessions. You're like, this wasn't asked. Anyone else?
Well, this may not be exactly related to the program itself, but as a person who is into tech, I wanted to ask you, Daima, what challenges have like did you overcome while you were at a regular job? I don't know if that makes sense. Like, like some tips to prepare us in our future career as a, in computer science, I guess. What would be some tips
I want to make
for
sure
the real world?
Yeah, I want to make sure I understand the question before answering. So are you asking about success tips for being successful in your first technical role or a previous role?
Your first one, yeah.
Your first technical role.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say a lot of and Bree, feel free to jump in here. I would say a lot of the characteristics that we're going to constantly bug y'all about are definitely leading there. Because again, they're going to be the make or break difference between your manager noticing things about you and just how you operate as a technical person with these really personal skills that enable you to operate differently than people that are just heads down technical. That's going to make you go a lot farther. And so that training, being able to open up about those skill set and advocate for yourself and hit all those key characteristic markers really helped. Focusing on that time management, I promise you, that's gonna take you far. You take that into your first role, it's gonna be so helpful. Also, for me, I consider myself an ambivert, so like my energy, like I can present as extrovert, but really I'm part introvert, but then I'm just like, I just need to recharge my batteries and I'm fine. But identifying how people around you operate professionally, personally, being able to allow yourself to connect with them in whatever way works for you as however you present and being open about that. Like, don't just tuck yourself off in a corner. Build relationships, whether they're personal or professional, because they will take you far, especially in the tech industry. I'm gonna stop there because I could probably talk about that forever. Bree, do you have anything to add there? That was a good question.
Another important aspect of like doing well in the industry is embracing the fact that you don't know everything and won't know everything. Part of like working in this field is you'll constantly be learning. Even seniors with 10 plus years of experience are constantly having to learn and pick up new skills, and we'll be learning things from juniors. That was my experience starting out with my first like placement at Stack Overflow. Was sort of, there will always be an exchange of information back and forth, like you learn from each other. So the people around you are resources. So that was one thing I wanted to drive home.
Nice. Thank you for that ad. One other light bulb thing that came out at me is knowing when to ask for help. So even as you go through the program, there's so much information all the time, just like when you're working in the job. And so knowing the difference between being heads down and stuck all day versus being heads down and stuck for 30 minutes and then reaching out to somebody so that you can get unstuck is very, very important. When you work in your first role, it's going to be the difference between saving the company money and having your performance review be really low versus the opposite direction. Yeah, I will stop there. I see some questions popping over into the chat. And I think, Sohan, you had your hand up before those questions came through. So I would love to hear from you. Did I say your name right?
Oh, yes, thank you. I love this session. It was very, thank you for the great presentation. And my question is this program, just given the fact that only 11 to 20 people get accepted, is very competitive. Do you have any recommendation around who, like how we can stand out throughout the application process? Thank you.
This is my answer. Stay involved in the community. That way you can learn who are the people that you'll potentially be interacting with as a cohort mate. And then also ask questions, don't be shy. Like when in doubt, if you don't understand something in the application process, ask away. But I think the biggest thing that will set apart people that are less interactive in the application process versus those that are not, are those that come to the study sessions, that ask questions, just as I mentioned, especially the study groups. I'm gonna keep plugging that, y'all, especially the study groups. And I'll be sure to bug staff about trying to open up some more spots, because I did hear you in the chat about those being limited. But I say the study groups and I keep talking about those because it really does open up the way that you think programmatically, as well as working with others, because that's what you're going to be doing on the job, right? As a software engineer, you're working individually as well as with others. And so you got to know how to build up those skills that we're talking about. In the study sessions will kind of give you a preview to that. Was there another question, Sohan? Doing well. I think that was it.
That was great. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. What are the programs that you offer? So Swati, that's a great question. So we offer the full-time program. And then for our graduates, we often have a seeker program where if they want more intense structured career support, they can join that. And that's where they would meet every day with people that are also trying to have more intense structured job support. We also have something called Techtonica Consulting, where partners can give us work specifically for our graduates that are job searching, and then they would onboard into working on this project. But more of that is all over the website. Let's see. Where can we get the study group information? Techtonica.eventbrite.com. Also on the website. Do you know how many hours a day a schedule of program time zoned? Thank you, Bree, for answering that. Yes, 8 to 5 PST. Thank you for also dropping that Slack link in there. That was clutch. You are on it, Bree. Nice. And the Eventbrite link in there. Yeah. Y'all are on it with these questions. Yes. Any other questions? Oh, you're so cute, doggy. What kind of dog is that, Michaela? Am I saying your name right? The dog's gotten her too busy. Any other questions? Don't be shy. This is your opportunity. Well, I'm going to be here on the Zoom link for the next 20 minutes for those of y'all that have questions and are just waiting for your moment to shine. But if no one else has questions, you're welcome to depart or just hang out and look at my awesome face, you know?
I don't have a question, but I just want to say that I love that you sing some of your words because I do it all the time.
Yes.
But it's nice to hear other people do it too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. If and when you are in the program, you will hear it with me all the time. Even in the study groups, I do that. That is a part of me. Yes.
I wanted to say thank you as well. I can tell that you all put so much work and effort into these presentations, and I'm so excited. So thank you.
You're welcome. We're excited for you. Yes, the SWAT T.
So when you were answering the programs that you offer, so if I understood correctly, it's only JavaScript, right? The technical is like a JavaScript that we will be learning here for software, but it's not like, my question was more like not software engineer, but is a data analyst or is just like JavaScript coding that we will be learning, just one program?
Yes, so this is a full stack software engineering training.
Right.
And so we just offer the coding.
So
However, we did have a question earlier where if we offer other programs, I don't know who asked it, I don't remember, but we have had graduates where they've gone through the coding and they decided like, hey, this isn't quite for me, but I know that I want something adjacent, and y'all have a great robust community that I want to leverage. And so they've been able to take advantage of having conversations with people. We also have like graduate access to other resources where they can get certificates and things in other related fields like design, data analytics, whatever. And so that's something that we offer our alum. But yeah, the whole program is coding.
yeah, so full stack web developer or full stack software developer, right?
Software.
So it's a software engineer. So are we learning like JavaScript only, like you mentioned, not like React, JD? Like when you said full stack, it comes with a lot of languages, but here, yeah, it is not front end. It's back end, but with JavaScript. That's all my question was.
Yeah, the technical stack is the Pern stack, which is most commonly known as Postgres, Express, React, Node. Those are the primary top level languages that we expose you to, but there's plenty of other technologies that you will be exposed to. But that's the technical stack if that's what you're inquiring.
Right. I have a cloud certificate from AWS. But I was never a developer. So I'm just trying to understand, like, what will be good way, because we are launching everything in cloud right now. So it's probably the great way to go to have some development, just career or just experience. Learning is not the issue, but having an experience and working as a developer, then switching to cloud, because cloud engineers require a lot of experience, which I don't have it right now in my bucket. So
yeah, and that's one of those adjacent roles, right?
yeah.
I completely agree. All the lovely thank yous in the chat. Any other questions? Don't be shy. I missed the part about where everybody's dialing in from. I'm gonna scroll back up while y'all think of questions so I can see that. Ooh, North Carolina. DMV, baby. They representing with that baby.
I did ask this question earlier, but I just want to make sure I understood. So for the study session, it has to be before the 20th, right?
Okay. So the study session, we will continue to have some study sessions after the application closes. So
okay, so it's fine if I do the 21st.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure. I know I asked it earlier, but I just wanted to clarify.
Okay. I do want to reiterate though, however, for example, if you don't do the short form for some reason and then you come to the study session on the 21st, then that wouldn't quite work out for you. So you got to make sure that you have at least one study session after you submit the short form. Yes.
I think I missed that part. What is the process now?
Yeah, so I'm not going to go through the entire process again, but I will highlight, because this is just one little piece of the process that kind of fumbles every time. After you submit short form, which is your initial application form, after you submit that, you do need to go ahead and make sure that you attend one study session. So the entire application process should be on the website. If you have specific questions about specific areas of the process, feel free to email us, or rewatch this recording later. But
Okay.
don't hesitate for those specific questions in the process.
So the initial form will be on the website, or should we get like something we already submitted, right? That's how I got the link. That's what you meant by initial form? Sorry, just trying to understand. So when you're saying initial form, I applied and I got the Zoom link. Is what the initial form, or do we have a separate initial form?
Yeah, so our initial form, it would have said at the top, like 1 of 2, Techtonica short form. And that's typically what you're clicking through on the main website. That's the first form. And then later there's a longer form with more specific questions. So after that short form, we require you, I shouldn't say request, we require that you attend one study group. And so I was just differentiating the timeline for the previous question to make sure that everybody's aware they gotta have a study group after the short form. Yes, you can attend more than one study session, Sakura, and I recommend it. Please do. Did that answer your question, Saswati? I know I kind of went into the chat there.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. How about you, Sohan?
Thank you. So how prepared should we be before we attend the study session?
You don't have to prepare anything, just show up.
I just wanted to make sure.
However,
And also, yes.
So you can just show up, really. It's about the environment. However, I will say if you are working through your JavaScript prereqs, it would be helpful to bring questions. So like, if I'm not sure how to solve this, you'll be doing some pair programming with other people. They will be online, Saswati. You'll be doing some pair programming with people on that study group. And so you'll kind of do breakout sessions. You'll work on a designated problem that's very similar to what you'll see in those prereq questions. And then you'll kind of come back together and solve a question with whoever is hosting the session together as a group. And you'll talk through, it will be very beginner friendly. So you'll talk through like what each step of the code is doing. There'll be questions. The person hosting will ask you questions about what they should be typing. So it's a very interactive way for you to open up that part of your learning process. But no, you don't have to prepare anything. If you are working right before and you want to hop on right when you get in the house, that's fine. We've had some people like dial in as they're walking their dog. Yeah.
Thank you. One last question is that I see that this is really competitive. I'm going to say that again, but that invite only digital literacy testing, that stage, approximately how many people usually make it to that stage?
I cannot give you a number for that because it's different every single
Right.
single
That
round.
makes sense.
Yeah. But we in fairness, we always communicate at every point. So for example, if you're eliminated during the application process, we'll give you resources. We'll tell you like, hey, you didn't quite move, you're not able to move forward, but these are ways that you can stay connected as well as kind of continue your learning process. And we invite you to move forward if you didn't already reach the 3 maximum attempts to reapply. So I can't give you a specific number, but you will hear from us if you didn't make it through the next step.
Thank you.
Of course. Y'all are on it. I love that. Any other questions? Any comments?
Thank you for your time and all the information and the opportunity. Very much appreciated.
Of course. Literally why I'm here. Yeah, want to make sure that if it's not already been answered, you are coming in hot and putting your best foot forward. So, yes, we are here for it, just like you. Any other questions? You got 8 minutes.
What is the email that will be reaching out? I just put it in the chat.
Oh, I didn't even see that pop in. It's info@techtonica.org. And then if you don't see that, or you can't remember it, or you haven't copied and pasted, it's also on the website.
The same. Thank you.
Of course. I think it's also at the top of the form, if I'm remembering correctly. Any other questions? Don't be shy.
So you already mentioned that when you discussed whether additional slots can be open for the study sessions, and when that happens, then the website will be updated. The sign up website is what I'm referring to, but right now, majority of it is already sold out, as people mentioned. But when it does open, then it will be updated, right?
Right. The link for the specific study sessions, you'll see that it won't say all sales final or has sold out. It will be open again for you to be able to select a ticket to attend.
Perfect. Thank you.
Of course.
Do those study sessions happen? Like, I'm just thinking, like, if I decide not to apply this time, do those study sessions happen consistently all throughout the year so I could attend those up until the next, or?
Yes, Ashley, coming in hot with the great questions. They do. They happen monthly. So after the application process closes, we continue them every month, every single month. And then also, if you're a part of the pre-applicant channel, like you can meet up. You don't have to wait for us to to give you sessions. And we have had people do that in the past where they'll say, "Hey, I'm working on this problem. Anybody want to join me? Here's a link." Or sometimes we'll have grads in the channel and they're like, hey, I'm doing like a co-working session, feel free to join or something. So it's not Techtonica dependent to continue the learning, obviously, but we host while there's no application process every month.
Thank you.
Of course. Oh, you got your puppy. Oh. I wish my puppies were that tiny. They would take over my whole body if I tried that. Any other questions? Any last words you'd like to offer, Bree? You also went through this rigorous application process that everyone's Q&Aing about. Anything you want to add?
My mind is drawing a blank at the moment, but if anyone would like to reach out to me on the Slack with any questions, I'm always down to help with that.
Cool beans. Y'all have done so great. I'm really impressed with all the detail of those questions. Very mindful questions. Oh, thank you, Chastity. And if you can't think of a question now, but it arises later, like I continue to say, don't be shy. Please, please, please throw us an email so we can help out and answer your question. Yes, Saswati.
Sorry, I'm coming up questions. So my last question, I promise. Is it like this cohort is Bay Area based people, or is it like can be anyone? I understand, but right now from July, whatever you are opening, whoever we are interested, the cohort people are from Bay Area based or no?
Yeah, so I highly recommend you read through that full-time program page on the website because it goes over all of those details about eligibility. But this is not relegated to just people in the Bay Area. However, there are some eligibility requirements. So you have to be able to work in the United States. And the entire program is remote for people in the United States or that are eligible to work in the United States. We've had some people like during the program, they had to go visit family overseas and they were eligible for the program. And so they ended up doing the program part-time, like maybe a week or two or a month in a different country and then came back to do their placement. So that's a unique use case. However, to answer your question, it's for anyone in the United States that meets those eligibility requirements that's on that webpage. And again, that's the full time program part of the Techtonica website. So please read through those so that you understand what we're looking for everyone across the US that meets those requirements. And I guess I shouldn't limit it to saying across the US. I guess if you live in Canada and you meet those eligibility requirements, then you are welcome to do the program. But they're very specific, so make sure you take a look. Good question.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Of course.
And I will leave for now and looking forward to join Techtonica at some point. Yeah.
Ready. Everyone else that's here, you got your 2 minutes of final countdown. Don't be shy, even if you want to talk about your favorite coffee brands or, you know, the weather outside. It's all good.
Could I ask real quick, towards the beginning when you were talking about being eligible for financial aid, you talked about expecting to have, I think it was $18,000 over the next however long it was. Could you kind of briefly break that down really quick again? Because I didn't quite follow.
Yeah. Okay, let me just pull up my notes to make sure I don't misspeak on anything. Because there's very specific details. Okay, so yes, it is the 18,000, but it is a needs-based sliding scale subsidized tuition. So what that means is in the application process, we ask some financial questions, and that's specifically to let us know where you're at with having $18,000 beyond 10 months of living costs. That's what we're looking for. And so some of those financial conversations, if you say that you want to apply for a partial or full scholarship during the application process, will be to help us indicate how to structure seeing if you're eligible for those things. Did that answer your question?
It does. I get it now. It's clear. Thank you.
That was a good question. Alrighty, everyone, we are at time. Again, please reach out. I will throw the Slack link in there one more time, and then we'll work on making sure that we can either add more study group dates or open up for more seats for the study groups. Alrighty. I hope to see everybody soon. Bye. Bye. Bye, Bree. I'll see you online.